Welcome to Born on the Bayou Sports, a Houston sports show made for Houstonians by Houstonians. Join Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla every week as they break down the latest in Houston Astros, Rockets, and Texans news. Tim's a former minor league broadcaster, and Scott has written 2 books on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, if Javier could get it figured out, it would make things a lot easier because he was that guy everybody was counting on this year to be a Cy Young candidate, take that big step forward and help anchor this rotation with Fromber.
Since he's come to Houston, you can look at the development of guys like Carlos Correa defensively, Jeremy Pena defensively. I mean, you can know Alex Bregman's, certainly I think a better than average third baseman.
And now you're putting teams in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Now here comes Will Anderson. Pin back your ears, let's go. So if you're Bayou born and bred, or just like spending time in the H, sit down, relax, and stay Houston strong. Welcome all my friends to the show that once again has had to move our recording day. It's if they say that a consistent release date is key to building an audience, Scott, we might have missed that lesson in broadcasting school.
That's all right. And we're taking next week off, so it's it's gonna be a winter break of sorts. I'm throwing you a curveball here, Tim. Just behind the scenes, to give you all peeled back. We decided to kind of table Astros since there's not a whole lot of news, and I had a Astros heavy opening question. So I'm throwing you a curveball here. I'm going to try to keep us both out of trouble here, Tim. So I'm phrasing this question very carefully. So are you going Julia Morales or Vanessa Richardson?
Julia Morales, hands down.
There's been a heavy debate on the old crawfish bulletin boards about that topic.
Well, it's not even close. How is it close?
Somebody who found Vanessa Richardson to be ridiculously good looking, and so I think a restraining order might be in the offing.
I mean, I'm not talking about attractiveness. I'm talking about the fact that, I think Julia Morales is fantastic at her job.
Coolness factor is off the charts.
Yeah, I think Julia, she has her own clothing line. I think she kind of has her own little thing with the players. Like, you can't tell me that Richardson is as tight with the Rockets as Julia is with the Astros.
No,
it's not the same. They play with each other on the sidelines, like Fromber's sticking in and messing with her interviews during the game. Like, they're throwing peanuts at her. Like, it's a different environment, and she's much more embedded with the team, which I think leads to better interactions.
Now, if you're going to go attractiveness factor, where are you going there?
I don't know. Push. I think they're both beautiful women. Like, I don't know. I honestly don't look at it that way. I am attracted to talent, Scott.
I got to keep us out of trouble. I wanted to keep it light there.
But no, I don't think Julia Morales gets enough of her due, right? Like, I think you and I have had Robert Ford on a previous iteration of the show. I think he's unbelievable. Maybe after our break, we could talk a little bit more about how much I love Milo Hamilton. I don't want to let anything out the bag yet, but there will be an honoring of Milo in my family coming up.
Yeah, I did hear that. So
TBD with us there. But we've talked about how much, we enjoy the Callis Blum broadcast. I think Julia is a big reason why, right? Like, they are a wonderful team. They all work really, really well together. They have been together long enough that they know how to play off of each other. And I just think, it's a better product than almost anybody else in the league. And I don't think the Rockets do a bad job, but I'll be honest with you, I still miss Bill Worrell. I think Adam Wexler's fine. I miss Bill Worrell. He was so fucking good.
So man. Are you dissing the sexiness and charisma of Greg Lucas as the sideline reporter in the old Astros broadcast?
I guess so. I mean, Greg didn't quite bring it, I guess, as much as Julia did, but no, I think Greg was more of like the stat nerd on the sideline where I don't know, like I think the Astros TV product right now, at least in my opinion, as someone who is I've watched the Astros on TV since I was 5 years old, right? I think this is the best version of their TV product we've ever had.
Yeah, I think I'm partial to Bill Brown because that's who I came up with, and the fact that he's a super nice guy. I've met Todd Callis, so I can't say anything bad about Todd Callis. And before pre-stroke, I liked Larry D as a color analyst.
I don't have a lot of Larry D color analyst experience. I remember Larry Derker as the manager of the team. And again, I'm talking TV only, right?
Yeah,
Like on the radio, I for Astros time period only, because I think Milo Forrest gumped his way around the league, right? Like he was at like every big moment in baseball for like 40 years. But I think like Astros time periods only, like you I think Robert Ford is just as talented as Milo was. I can't pick a favorite in those two guys. I
um, so one question, the burning question, because you're mentioning the Astros broadcast.
yeah.
Are
Yeah,
you
I'm very much missing the Astros
Oh, no,
broadcast.
oh, no, you're mentioning them. Are you out on Lionel Hollins as a
On
color guy?
who?
On Hollins as a color guy?
I'm not. But the caveat to me is you're not a Rocket. Like that's my biggest problem. Like I loved Blum as an Astro. Blum was one of those guys who like he didn't play every day, but when he did play, he always seemed to do something good to help you win a ball game. And he's just one of those guys that I remember from my childhood. And I like Jeff Blum, and I was excited when we hired him, and he's been great as the color guy. My problem with Lionel Hollins is just like I don't have a connection to you as a player. I think he does a fine job. I think he's more of a hype man a lot of times.
Yeah.
I think he kind of got more I guess new age style. He
I
doesn't
get
give you the stats. He doesn't give you the he's just, oh, look at that.
yeah.
Oh.
The thing I love about Blum is I think Blum really walks that tightrope between being a straight guy and being a homer. And I think Hollins goes way overboard. Like, I think there was one possession where he said, like, Alpi Sengun is the only player in the NBA who could have kept his balance on that play. And it's like, really, the only guy in the NBA could have,
But I
and it's
feel
like,
like he almost has to because he was never a Rocket.
yeah,
Right? Like I feel like he has to come out and say that, not say that specifically, but be the we guy, right? When I was coming up as a broadcaster specifically, like there's like you don't really say we, especially I do high school football and I represent one of two teams, right? Like I'm there
yeah,
to call for either Bowie or I'm there to call for Arlington.
right.
I don't say we when I call those games. I say Bowie. I say the Volunteers. I say Arlington. I say the Colts. I don't I don't say we.
You
Maybe a
didn't go
little
to
bit with the Air Hogs,
you
huh?
didn't go to school there, so obviously, you can't say
That
we.
too.
But
No, but it's more of like it's not the broadcast is for everyone. It's not just for this team. When it's just bad form. It really is, right? Like you want to you can be a home broadcast. You can be a home team broadcast. That's totally
yeah,
fine, right? And that means you're going to slant a little bit more. You're going to talk more about um your guys than the other team. You're going to talk more about like the guys who are not doing well on the other team versus the guys who are playing well, right? Like, hey, this guy's slumping. This guy's had this. So like, obviously that exists. And there's a purpose for that. But I agree with you, Scott. He goes way over the top, and I think it's because he doesn't have a connection with the Houston fan base, right?
Yeah.
Like imagine if it's let's take the fact that he is not from America out of this. Imagine like take language out of this, but a player like Luis Scola. Imagine that's who's on the sideline as your color guy, who has like he bled for that fucking team. Like when Yao was out, when everybody else is out, and you got Luis fucking Scola starting at center, like we love that guy. Yeah, we'll listen to what Scola has to say about things. We have a connection with him. I just don't think you have any of that in the city of Houston with Hollins, right? Like I just don't. I that's my biggest issue is he's not one of our guys.
And I miss Matt Bullard.
Bullard was great, but I get if you don't want to travel on the road anymore. Like I get that, but could you not have called Shane Battier?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you want to go back, maybe go back to that '80s bunch, or maybe those guys are getting a little bit old. Um,
I mean, don't give me any more Clyde. He was terrible.
oh, clubbing baby seals. I mean, that was rough. That was rough, Tim.
Every time they brought that third chair over, you're like, oh fuck, no.
So I'm trying to think of anybody else from that '90s team. Of course, you can't bring Kenny Smith because he's got another job. That probably pays a little bit more.
What about Bob? What about Bob?
Big Shot Bob?
Big Shot Bob.
I go Big Shot Bob.
I think it'd be fun. I think
Vernon Maxwell, if he could keep
oh god, no. I mean, yes. Actually, yes. Like as I don't have to pay the fines. And like, can you imagine when we go to Utah and he's just like fucking like fucking with the crowd the whole time? Like he's giving you remember this one from high school? He's just like, just like the whole
all right.
Mad Max.
I guess we got to talk sports here. So you want
what have we been doing this whole time?
Rockets or Texans, Tim? Who do you want to lead us off with?
Let's start with the Rockets, Scott. I think the Texans are going to take a little too longer. I'm going to throw a hot take out at you.
Okay.
And I don't really think it's that hot, but you and I haven't talked about it yet. The title on this section for the Rockets is we have a Kevin Durant problem, and it's that he's too passive. If you look at the game against the Nuggets, Durant had 14 shots. I get it. Alpi was on and Alpi was going to work, but I think at this point, like Durant is trying so hard to make sure everybody gets touches and be a team guy and fit into what we're doing that I don't think Durant's getting into his flow. We haven't seen Durant play great ball, I feel like, much this year. I think we've won with him playing okay and fitting in and doing things here or there. But have we truly seen KD take over a game yet? Like I don't remember one where it's just been like the KD show.
I think there's one or two. He had one like 30-plus point game outburst. I can't remember who it was. By the way, I was just going to interrupt you there. I did see Reed Shepherd hit a three, so I have, of course, I'm not in New Orleans right now, so I can't.
No, he's playing good ball. We need to lay off Reed.
But I was going to say, I think he's got 11 points. So
he's playing great ball. He's still not a point guard. We still need a point guard, but Reed is playing good ball.
Okay, but we've said many times, Tom. When does this season really begin?
Christmas Day.
Are we at Christmas Day yet?
Not quite.
So I'm going to hold off on the Kevin Durant talk for just the time being, just because I think he's purposefully kind of taken a step back to kind of see what his teammates can do. Because we know Kevin Durant can put up 40 points. But he's also proven that he can be on teams, put up 40 points, and his teams don't win. He did that with the Suns. Averaged 27 a game. What did they do last year, Tim?
I mean, not much. God, they spent the playoffs watching from home like you and I did.
So if he's averaging 22, 23, and it's a better product out there for the most part, I'm okay with it. I want him to take over in April and May. That's when it gets to be nut crunching time. And so I want him to sit. I want him to be able to sit there and say, you know what? I've watched this team play for 75, 80 games. I know what Alpe can do in this moment. I know what Eamon Thompson can do in this moment. I know what Jabari can do in this moment. I know what Reed Shepard can do in this moment. And that's going to be both positive and negative. Like there's going to be some times where he knows, like, okay, I know my guys don't got this. I'm going to have this. And that's when you want him to step up.
But I want those moments a little bit more. I feel like I want a little bit more assertive Durant. Again, that was a great game against the Nuggets. You lose it overtime. In my opinion, Alpe versus um, Alfie, the Nuggets center,
Jokic.
Jokic. That's primetime television, right? Like that's must see TV. I feel like every time those two guys play, it's a wonderful game. However, I can't live with the fact that we lost a game where a top 20 scorer in the history of the NBA gets 14 shots. Like to me, that's a problem. I understand Alpe was going off, but when you look around, Alpe sometimes, and I love Alperen Sengun, but like to me, Alfred Sengun gets into this zone where he takes a lot of bad shots because he's feeling himself. And I get it. Like the confidence is part of why he's able to do some of these things and, becomes this whirling dervish where he's just tossing stuff up. But there's a lot of little in the lane shots that I wouldn't call good quality looks that he takes through the process of his game that maybe that ball should have been kicked back out. Maybe Durant should have forced his hand a little bit more on a possession. And I do agree, we're early in the season and there's time to work those kinks out. But that's just at least something I'm taking note of is I appreciate him not being like, hey, I need 25 looks a game and then you guys can figure your shit out from there. I appreciate that. But also I don't want to lose a game where we didn't possibly give it our best shot at winning because we never got our best scorer in rhythm. Like the whole point of getting him was, hey, we're looking for a steady 25 a game. Everybody else fill in from there.
Yeah, although I hate to bag him on this because on an earlier show we were praising him for getting his without taking a ton of shots. So I mean that's kind of and I get what you're saying. I think the key
You
is
got to pick your moments. You're a star. Hey,
he's
I
gonna
feel it.
there's gonna have to be there's gonna have to be a wink or a nod when it gets to be nut crunching time in those big games. And I think I don't know who it's going to take if it's not going to be Durant taking them. I don't know if Adoku's going to have to. Did you ever watch Bad News Bears?
I have many times, both versions, all cities, all locations, Houston, Japan. Which one are we talking about here, Scott?
No, like when Walter Matthau, because I haven't. I'm not going to watch the Billy Bob Thornton version. When Walter Matthau goes to Kerry Leak and says, like, "I'm just going to need you to just catch every ball."
Yeah.
We need Ime
Kelly's
Doku.
just like flying all over the fucking place in center field.
Ime Doku's got to go up to Durant, like at the 3 minute mark or 4 minute mark of a key game. Said, like, I need you to go Kelly Leak.
I mean, it doesn't have to happen all the time, and maybe that's why it
No.
more sticks out to me. Is that during the season, right? Like, pick your spots. That's a game that would have been a nice notch on your belt. Feel good throughout the year, good quality win, and kind of give you just the distance of the muck that is the West, right? It's just a lot of really good teams and then trash. So if you could, last year the Rockets had some separation at that 2 seed. There was the Thunder clearly the best, then the Rockets, then everybody else. So if we can find a way to keep separating, you don't want to lose games like that. That was a winnable game, and I look back on it as as you rewatch the replays and all that other stuff. You're like, man, there's some opportunities where I felt like KD could have pressed his hand a little bit more on that game, or he kind of imparted his will a little bit more on the game. And I appreciate helping players get theirs. I appreciate finding your way on the team, all that. I really do. I just want you to feel that moment of like, hey, this is a game that we should win. I need to make sure that we do.
Yeah,
That's my only thing.
yeah, and the thing is, to your point, last year's standings, I don't think it was, Oklahoma City, then the Rockets. Rockets, I think, were second seed by what, one game?
I think it was 2 or
Maybe,
maybe it was 1 in a tiebreaker, but, like,
but
we were resting players the final game of the
but
season.
but I think Denver is going to be one of those teams. You've already beaten them earlier this year. Having 2 wins against them starts to look good when you start talking tiebreakers. And now you split with them, and we don't know how the other games are going to go. I guess my question is that the key date in the calendar is that players acquired in the offseason are now tradable. I don't know if you saw that. I think this happened last week. So knowing that, are you in the mode of waiting until the myth of Finney Smith, you know, reveals itself, and you get Tari Eason back, and just waiting to see how the team shakes out, or do you have a role identified that you would like to target in the trade deadline?
I still think we need a point guard. I still think we need a point guard. Like, I think Reed has been very good, but he is not the guy that anyone in this league would call a point guard. He is a scoring guard. Unfortunately, he's not the size of a shooting guard, but he is a scoring guard, and I still think we need a traditional point guard. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the only person who feels that way. I don't think Reed shouldn't be played. I think Reed's earned his minutes, but I just don't think he should be a primary ball handler running an offense. And there are 15 to 25 minutes a game where I really feel like it would make a difference, and especially come playoff time when you got to see a team multiple times and you can't just fast break your way to wins like the Rockets do sometimes because our defense is so good. You're going to have a guy who can run sets, who can do things, who can run plays, which isn't done as much in the NBA. And I am very concerned that without a true point guard on this roster, that come April, May, June, this team is going to be able to sustain the chess match that is the NBA playoffs, because it's completely different than the regular season.
I think the issue is that I think you can go down 2 roads. I think you can deal from what I would call your slop, which is like your Jashawn Tates and those guys of the world. You're maybe a first round pick here or there, but then you're probably picking up a 10 to 15-minute point guard, which how much of a difference does that make? Or is there anybody from this core that you think we could maybe do without that guy?
I mean, it depends on what you consider the core. I'm not trading. I'm not trading Tari personally. I think he's a really talented basketball player who can guard pretty much anyone 2 through 5, and is a spark plug off the bench. I'm not trading Amen. I'm not trading Alpi. I'm not trading Jabari Smith. I'm willing to trade Holiday for a legitimate point guard. I'm willing to trade.
Would you trade
willing,
Capella?
huh?
Would you trade Capella?
For the right deal, yeah. But I'm hesitant to do that just because of Steven Adams, and the health of Steven Adams, and the times where during the NBA playoffs where you want to run 2 bigs and you need that third guy. And Capella's as good a third center as there is in the league.
The
So to me,
trouble
he's more of a playoff guy than he is throughout the regular season.
The problem is you've painted yourself into a corner, because especially when you get both Eason and Finney Smith back, you've got a pretty damn good 10-man rotation. And so what I'm looking at there is, if you want somebody that matters, it's got to be somebody from that 10-man rotation that you trade. Aaron Holiday is a nice guy, but I don't think he gets you a starting level point guard.
I don't need a starting level point guard.
I mean,
Because we're not going to. Well, maybe that's wrong. Starting level is fine, but I need a guy who understands he's not going to play starters minutes because I'm not going to just insert you into the starters lineup. You may finish games out, but overall, our starters are fine. I'm fine with the combination of Amen and Alpi and um, Durant and even Okaji. That's who goes is fucking Okaji, right? He's fine, but do
yeah,
you trust him to sustain his play for 82 games and a playoff run?
no. And I was going to say the guy that I really would want a reiteration of, he's way before your time. You would know him as a coach in the NBA, but do you you don't have any recollection of Scott Brooks the player?
You mean on the Rockets for the
Yeah,
championship team?
yeah.
Of course I do.
So back in '93, um, that I mean he was a guy. He was on that first team and not that second team, and his job was he was the fourth quarter point guard. That was his job, and so he'd play 10, 15 minutes a game tops. He is the close out the game guy. He is the guy that I mean, he wasn't as bad as like the short kid on Hoosiers. You know, when they pass him the ball, like the whole. You know what's funny about that movie? I don't know if you've heard this. He was the best natural basketball player of the actors on that team.
I gotta be honest with you. I don't like Hoosiers. I
But he,
saw it like twice, and I'm like, I'm fucking good on this, man. Like, there are much better basketball movies out
but
there.
but he had to pretend to suck, and it was basically what it
Good
amounted.
acting, then apparently.
Yeah, and so Brooks wasn't that bad, but he's a guy that knew his role that I am not a scorer. I'm a guy that is going to distribute the ball and to get it into Dream. Dream's going to either take a shot or he's going to get double, triple teamed, kick it out. You know, that was his role in the offense. And he wouldn't turn the ball over. That was you need that guy because we still have those problems late in games where you need somebody who is going to figure out a way to settle this thing down. Like I'm kind of glancing over at my iPad watching the game, and we were up by 22 points at one point, and New Orleans cuts it to 5 because he had a series of turnovers. Where they trapped us, and we couldn't figure it out. So we need that guy who can figure it out.
I have a radical trade that most Rockets fans would probably say no to. I would say there's a percentage of Rockets fans that also attended the local university that would say yes to this trade. Reed Shepard for Jamal Shed, straight up.
That's ballsy.
It is ballsy. But if you want to win a championship, you have to be ballsy. And I think I have said from the beginning, I have said while he was in college, I literally just bought a Jamal Shed jersey because I still fucking love that man. In a completely normal male sports appreciation way, I love Jamal Shed. I think he is the ultimate Houston Cougar. I think he is the perfect example of 4 years of Kelvin Sampson. I think he is the exact type of point guard the Rockets need. He doesn't turn the ball over. He hits open threes. He is a phenomenal defender. He hustles. He plays defense. He does everything you want. He doesn't need major minutes to contribute. And while, yes, Reed scoring off the bench has been nice, I think Jamal Shea could shoot just as well and do more.
I'll give you a comparison. I'll give you an Astros comparison and a Rockets comparison to that deal. So this is a loaded question, but looking at their career trajectories, would you still do the Shane Battier for Rudy Gay trade?
That's tough because Shane Battier was my favorite Rock at the time. No, because you never had a healthy enough T-Mac to ever get what, right? Like that team doesn't ever get to do what it needs to do because you never had a healthy enough T-Mac. If you have a Rudy Gay instead of Shane Battier, at least when T-Mac goes down, you've got another dominant scorer there, and you don't end up with fucking Ron Artest dribbling for 23 seconds and shooting a fadeaway three.
I mean, the problem that you have there is that I think in the moment, assuming everybody was healthy, which is your point, I think Shane Battier made you a better team.
Correct.
And so I think in your analogy, I think Jamal Shed would make this team a better team, but I think Reed Shepherd would have the better career.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I think as Reed's career goes on, he can't go and be the point guard for a team
Oh
unless
no,
he
no,
should like he needs to be on a team that has a guy like Giannis or LeBron or Amen, one of these forwards that likes to handle the ball a lot because he's not that guy. He's a shooter who is undersized. And I don't think his defense is as good. So, I don't love Reed Shepherd. I think he's been nice this season. I think he's been fine. I think he could shoot the ball. I think he is, kind of similar to a JJ Redick type player. But a JJ Redick is kind of a luxury, right? Like you don't have to have that kind of guy. You have to have someone at the wheel keeping shit going in the lanes that when things are a little bit hairy.
I
There are
just don't
times when
think-
cruise control, like you and I would both agree, there are times you can say cruise control and go. And there are other times where you got to have a steady hand on the wheel and you've got to have someone controlling that shit in traffic. And the Rockets, for a lot of portions of a lot of games, can set it on cruise control and let their fast break run out and get good looks that way. But there are times where you got to grab the wheel and fucking manage that shit.
Yeah, and I'm watching they just cut it to 4. I don't think Jamal Shed is ever really going to be, this is what NBA coaches think. He's never going to be a starting point guard in this league, I don't think. He's going to be a solid 15, 20 minute a game. So I still think Reed Shepherd has the bigger career. I'll give you the Astros analogy. This one's probably not fair, but would you do the Francisco Liriano for Teoscar Hernandez trade again?
Definitely not fair because that's a hell no.
But do you win the World Series without
Liriano? Yeah, absolutely. He didn't do shit.
But
he contributed next to nothing to that run.
Or if you want to sit there it's
Scott, we had to bring starters out of the bullpen because no one else could get fucking outs.
Yeah, that's a harder one. I'm trying to think.
But my point is that number one, Fred's coming off a major injury and a major surgery. We don't know if he'll ever be the same. We hope that he is, but you have no insurance policy at point guard for that. And Reed is not a point guard. He is your best trade bait as a top 3 pick who can shoot the rock. And for a team like Toronto, where Shed is coming off the bench, I disagree with you that he couldn't be a starting point guard. And you can call me a homer, you can call me whatever, but I also have watched more of him than anyone, realistically, that's not Kelvin Sampson. So I just know what he does. And I know that there are many, many teams in the NBA that are probably going, damn, I wish I would have taken that guy. And it just so happens that the Raptors have a Scotty Barnes who they're wanting to be their guy.
Yeah, and I think I'm not saying, this is not me saying it. I think this is the league saying it. I just don't think that the league views him as a starting point guard. I think a lot of teams wish they drafted him because everybody needs a backup point guard that's worth a damn. And I think he's probably I hate to compare him across sports, but he's like a Jacoby Brissett.
I was going to ask if you would put him on the Davis Mills level.
I think Jacoby Brissett's better than Davis Mills.
So, okay.
But I don't think team really wants Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback.
I think that's fair.
But I think
he's a great insurance policy and will give you quality minutes. And if your guy gets hurt, Brissett or Mills, whoever, can come in and win 2 or 3 games.
And I think that's the level of point guard Shed is. What I'm arguing is that I think Reed Shepherd will be the better player long term. I think Jamal Shed makes your team this year better. That's my argument.
I don't disagree. I mean, if there's a way, Scott, you could acquire Shed without giving up a Reed Shepherd, that's a win-win for everybody. I just think you have to do something to entice Toronto, because if you redraft that draft, Shed's going in the first round, right? Like he's one of the top 30 guys drafted instead of where he actually went based on how the first year and 3 months of NBA play have played out. So they know what they have, but also he's a luxury to them, and they're a team that's third in their side of things. Maybe they're looking to make a move that betters them, bring in a shooter. So if there's a way that we could acquire him, another guy like a Sasser, another Cougar, but he just hasn't translated to the NBA as well. I don't know if you could reclaim him for cheap, kind of like the Astros do with some of these pitchers. But he's another guy that can shoot the rock and play defense and can handle the basketball. But let's talk some Texans, Scott, because we've talked a lot about the Rockets, and maybe we're jinxing them because when we started the show, they're up 22, and as you mentioned, that lead has shrunk.
I turned it off.
So maybe you're the problem.
Yeah, I turned it off.
Yeah. So they took care of business against the Arizona Cardinals and now have the Oakland Raiders. I'm sorry, the Las Vegas Raiders as our tour of the AFC West wraps up for the season, Scott. That Cardinals game, maybe not our best defensive performance, but offense looked a lot better, and things are really starting to click.
Yeah, I'll have more to say on that later. But generally speaking, unfortunately, I did not see a down of that football game. We were in Baton Rouge. Long story there that I won't tell online. It was a rough weekend. And we couldn't get the game on the radio because I was driving my parents' car and they don't have satellite radio. So
you need the Texans app.
That is, my parents are challenged when it comes to, working the Bluetooth. So it's just, it's rough, Tim. It's rough. I was stuck listening to Neil Diamond radio for most of the trip. It was,
girl.
It was
You'll be a woman.
It was an experience.
That's a long road trip of Neil Diamond.
Yeah, it was something. But in listening to and following the game online, it looked like that. I think there are some familiar issues when we get into the red zone that we seem to get bogged down on. And so I think when the story of this season gets told, you know what our rank is on touchdown percentage in the red zone out of 32 teams?
26.
You're overestimating their abilities.
It's still dead last.
No, they're not. They're 30th. The team that is dead last, I cannot mention them too loud because I'll be getting trouble in the house. So I'll just keep that, under wraps, and you figure out who that is. But that's going to be the story of this offense, because I think if you look at almost every other number, this offense is outperforming last year. It's just they have looked really comically bad at times in the red zone.
Yeah. And certainly the first 6 or 7 games where we were like 0 for 12 inside the 2-yard line on goal to go doesn't help that. I think we've gotten better. I think going to Marks has certainly improved just the ability to punch the ball in. He's been better. Moving Howard to left guard and Trent Brown to right tackle has been better. The play calling down there has been better. How about the you haven't seen the play obviously, but the direct snap between the legs of CJ to Woody Marks.
Have you heard the explanation for what that happened there?
No.
So Stroud went under center And Jake Matthews just said, I didn't realize he was under center. How do you not? You got somebody.
Don't you feel the hands up
And
your ass?
your ass, didn't you? I mean, wouldn't you know?
How are you spending your off time if you don't notice that someone's sliding their hands up your ass crack?
Now, CJ Stroud, for his credit, he took the blame for that. He said it was a miscommunication in the huddle, and it's on him. But really, that's on Matthews. When you don't feel a hand in your ass, I mean, that's. I'm sorry, that's on the center. But
Like, I wasn't a center, but I was an offensive lineman, and I still remember, like, we'd have to, like, practice. We'd all line up, and we would snap it, and they were literally saying, like, "Get up in his gooch, get up in his tank, get your hands up there." Like, he should feel you up near his balls, like, talking to the quarterback. So, like, you're telling me that someone's got their fucking hands up near your gooch, taint, ball area, and you don't feel that?
well,
What?
and what I was going to say though, in all seriousness, I want to trust Nick Caserio. I want to trust D'Amico Ryans. I want, and I'm trying to trust Nick Caley, trying really hard. What in the hell was Jawar Jordan doing on the practice squad for 2 years? Somebody explained to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Why is it that you thought we should give a roster spot to Damian Pierce
For 2 years?
for 2 years over Jawar Jordan, who it's not like Jawar Jordan just came out of nowhere. He's performed good in camp and in preseason games 2 years in a row. And 2 years in a row, they said, like, yeah, we like it, but it's not quite good enough. You're on the practice squad. And you drafted him. I don't understand. Somebody needs to explain that one to me.
No, I don't understand that either. I went back and watched every one of his runs. Specifically, he had like 14 carries, and it was take this with a grain of salt because I'm not comparing his abilities to that of this man, but it was Barry Sanders-esque, Scott, in that it was like 1 yard, minus 1 yard, 2 yards, 47 yards, 47 yards,
Yeah,
2
that one
yards,
play.
1 yards, huge. And then he had, he had 2 or 3 big home run plays, including a pass that he caught, right? But I mean, he did a nice job. Like he ran the rock hard. I think he looks like he has fresher legs than Nick Chubb at this point, right? I think Nick Chubb is a more household name, certainly. But if you look at this point in his career, like that guy looks like he's running with one of those fucking like parachute vests, and he just can't quite get going. Like he
He's like,
literally just like dragging, the definition of dragging ass. And it's not like he's had a litany of knee injuries, and I commend him for coming back and continuing to play football. But like, I'm sorry, Jordan has fresh legs and looks good running the ball. Woody Mark's got some fucking pop behind those pads. Nick Chubb is not that guy anymore.
See, like King Henry from the commercial.
Essentially, yeah.
Look how I'm low. But I saw the play. I saw the play where he gained like 60 something yards. The replay of it. I am not saying this guy is a starting level running back. That would be a ridiculous statement because
you are not. I do, but there are people on the interwebs saying he is the next Arian Foster.
I mean, I guess that's possible, right? Because when Arian Foster, remember, he came up late, and that's his first season, the last 2 games.
We're number 37 against the Patriots. He ran for a bill,
and everybody's like, "Who in the hell's this guy?" Well, we found out the next year in the league who that guy was. I guess it's possible Jordan could be that, but what I'm asking for is a guy that could get 5 to 10 carries a game. With Marks being the primary ball carrier. That's what I'm looking for. Now, and if he could be a home run guy that every once in a while, when you're running, let's say, outside zone, something like
that. Hey, we can't say those words. Who the fuck do you think you are talking like that in here? This is a safe space.
Something like that. And Marks, Marks has been a very pleasant surprise. His toughness has been a pleasant surprise. I thought he could be explosive because, he was a dual threat running back at USC. So I always thought I thought he would be a nice change of pace back for hopefully Joe Mixon. Well, obviously we saw how that turned out. And so I'm not saying that Jawar Jordan should be the guy, but I'm saying if you're saying goodbye to Nick Chubb, you're going to need 3 running backs. His touchdown notwithstanding, it should not be Dario Gumbuale. So you need 2 more running backs in addition to Marks. Jordan should be one of those 2 guys.
Scott, what name have I constantly said as a reference as like the type of running back that the Texans need?
Well, I mean, you've obviously you love Arian Foster.
No, this is not a Texan. This is a guy who played for the Saints, for the Chargers, for the Eagles.
Oh, you're talking about Darren Sproles?
I am talking about Darren Sproles. And to me, as I looked at a lot of those carries and a lot of those, at least the reception that he had, to me, this seemed like a guy who could at least fit that role. He seemed like a guy who could be, if you put together a stable of 3 backs, right? And let's say it's next year because I'm looking forward.
Yeah.
And Mixon comes back, but he's not going to be the Mixon of old. We can give it to him 300 times a year. So he's got a pitch count, 12 to 15 carries a game for Mixon, 10 or so carries a game for Marks. And then, hey, third down back is Jawar Jordan.
I want to pay good money to watch Joe Mixon run with 1 foot.
To what?
To run with 1 foot. You can't convince me he has both his feet right now. There is absolutely no documented proof.
You think he plaxicoed himself?
Nobody's, people are saying to him.
I've heard that he actually shot himself. That's why I wonder if you think he plaxicoed
it. People are saying, I'm just asking questions, Tim.
I'm just asking questions. He definitively did this, allegedly. I'm just asking questions.
All right. So
do you think he went with a billionaire to space and fell out of the spaceship and broke his foot on the way down? I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, could be. Maybe he was dirt biking and, kind of like an episode of Psych where, he lost his foot in a dirt biking thing and that, these things happen. But key things to look for this weekend with the Raiders. Nico Collins almost certainly will go over 1,000 yards receiving, which I think he will be only the 3rd Texans wide receiver in history to have 3 consecutive 1,000 receiving yards. I know you're going to have difficulty picking the other 2.
I was going to say, we've only ever had 3 good receivers in Texans history. DeAndre, and Triandre. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Nico Collins. It would have been great if his name was, we had DeAndre, and then Trey Andre would have been the best to have as our next great receiver. But it's the 1 year of great receivers on either side of the ball. We had Andre Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins. It was literally 1 season where we had 2 good receivers.
So here's here's the second question. I don't know. Have you seen the line for this game?
No, I haven't.
14.5.
That's big. Vegas is making a statement there.
That's a big number. Well, I think the Raiders have opened up a whole big case of quit. Yeah, because
they got Kenny Pickett taking snaps now.
Well, Kenny Pickett's taking snaps. They're tied with the Giants for the worst record in the league. I don't know where they're going to be in terms of
you want a quarterback, you might just fucking shit the bed on purpose.
And then Pete Carroll's probably going to, knowing him, he'll probably Lovie Smith it in the last game because it'll be his last game.
I don't think he gets fired.
I don't know. It's just. Although
he did want to trade for Geno Smith. That was on him.
Yeah, that was rough. But I could see. I don't know if the Giants win any games between now and the end of the season, and I don't know what the strength of schedule is going to be as of the last weekend because that's the tiebreaker, is the strength of schedule. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. But now for a Texans question, Do you sit anybody, or do you just damn the torpedoes and blow their ass out?
I mean, you
I mean, you
you
win the game, but
win the game, you get up a certain amount, and then you pull guys.
so you play it that way. Third
I
quarter, you start sitting some people.
At the end of the third, if I'm up 3 touchdowns, CJ, you're done. Will Anderson, you're done. Daniil Hunter, you're done. Um, Sting, you're done. Lassiter.
Well,
I
I don't
mean,
know how many
not all at
corners we have.
once, but
I don't know if we have any corners we have. I don't know if we have enough. We're going to be sending out. Okay, who could we
yeah,
send
that
out?
game might get close again real quick if all of a sudden you've got
All
like
right,
fucking Tim Settle playing
yeah,
opposite you.
Christian Harris. Have you played any corner?
Tommy Townsend, get in there, buddy. You're the starter. You're safety.
Let's go.
That's
Let's
like
go.
there's when I worked for the Air Hogs, Scott. Obviously, I've mentioned before, a large portion of our team was made up of the Chinese Olympic team, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, the Chinese would just decide, like, we need a break and we need a day off. And when they said that, they meant like all the Chinese players, like not just like, hey, let's space this out and like, hey, you guys get a day here, you guys get a day here. Like, nah, the interpreter walked in, he's like, today, day off, everybody. And so we'd have like Tyler Matzik was our first baseman, Kevin Hilton, who's the starting pitcher, is playing second. Eric Manoa's in center field. He's the other Manoa's brother. We had like literally 6 starting pitchers playing positions because they were majority of the Americans were pitchers, and everything else was like, hey, we have 12 players on the roster who are not Chinese. You guys are all playing today.
So I have to know before we get to that favorite portion of the week. Have you seen the stock footage of the Boston play-by-play guy calling the Olympics in basketball?
No.
Oh, and it's hilarious because like they're playing the Russians, and
Okay.
so you need and Russian names, and so he's just like, and the big guy passes it to the little guy, the little guy he passes it to the other guy, the other guy he takes it. He's not even trying to go with names. So did you have trouble with butchering names in that environment, or were you have a pretty good pronunciation guide there?
I had a pretty good I mean, they were my team. And so, after the first couple of games, you kind of just get used to it and you kind of roll with it. But I felt bad for other guys, right, who'd
The road
come
guy.
into Grand Prairie, and next thing you know, I'm handing you a roster with Chen Meng Wang and like Xiao Wen, and it's like TSAO is how you spell Xiao, Chun Jalun. He was a
All
fun
right,
guy.
and the third baseman throws it to the first baseman, and it's an out. What a great throw by the pitcher there.
Yeah, I mean, and then you had like you go to places, right? And some of the places we visited, Scott, are not the most open-minded places in America. Like these stadiums still have like smoking sections inside the stadium. So I could just kind of like give you an idea of like
Hey,
sort of the datedness of these parts of
hey,
middle America, right? So now imagine this. Let me paint a word picture for you. You're sitting there having your fucking Marlboro Red in the smoking section. You see a bunch of Chinese players walk out, and you're like, that's fucking crazy.
oh yeah, I could just see it.
Then you see the Chinese flag appear on the scoreboard, at which point a beautiful serenade of trumpets come on and the Chinese national anthem. And it's just like, we got letters of like, what the fuck is happening? Why are we playing? I'm just like, welcome to Air Hogs baseball, motherfucker. That's how we roll.
I've thought many times I would like to sit in a box seat, just sitting there smoking a big cigar. I mean, that would just be that'd be awesome.
Well, go to Lincoln, Nebraska, and check out some Salt Dogs baseball. You can do it there. Gary, Indiana. the Railroaders, you can do whatever the fuck you want in Gary, Indiana, Scott. There is nobody in that ballpark. You could have an orgy in section 127 and no one would fucking care. Like they're just happy that no one is shooting each other in Gary. Like it is it is the only team that we were in the league with that we did not stay in that actual city. We stayed in another fucking state. We stayed in Illinois and then drove 30 minutes to Gary, Indiana to play those games.
All right, Tim. Is it that time of the week?
All right, it is, Scott. Who are we punching pow in the kisser this week?
I hate to do this. I really do, but I'm going to have to punch Ime Udoka in the face, in the throat, in the gut, wherever we're going here. And it's not anything coaching that he's done, Tim. But I know, I can see him. He's feeling it in that post-game press conference. He's pissed off that we've lost to Denver. He feels like he was jobbed by the officials. And I get it. And you're going to sit there and say, you're going to say it was a terribly officiated game. He stepped over a line. He stepped over a line when he said that they don't belong in the league. He stepped over a line when he said they're starstruck. And this one's a little bit personal, Tim. My dad was probably, if he had wanted to, could probably have been an NBA basketball official. He actually refereed in the Southwestern Conference for both men and women. His last game that he officiated was with Larry Johnson, and I know that because Larry Johnson ran him over, and he tore every ligament in his knee because Larry Johnson ran him over. And he coached NBA Summer League games back before it was like really organized the way it is now. So I know how hard those guys work. And I know that they have dreams. You had, dreams of being a big league announcer. I mean, imagine if you're going into the, if you're, radio announcing in the big leagues and somebody says you shouldn't even fucking be there. I mean, I don't think you would take that a certain way. And I think those officials are going to take that a certain way. And I'm looking at this from a decency standpoint, but I'm also looking at it from a practical standpoint. Because you remember the relationship between Clyde Drexler and Joey Crawford. Joey Crawford was going to stick it to Drexler every damn time they played. So when those officials are going to be refereeing the Rockets games, guess what, Ime?
Scott Foster and James Harden was never a good one either.
You're going to be watching from the locker room probably second quarter. And, is that what you want? Is that, and I get it. There were some questionable calls in that game. But, what's funny is when you sit there and talk about starstruck, who is the biggest star in the NBA in that game?
Kevin Durant.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Shots.
I get it. But I'm talking in terms of like getting homer calls and whatnot and getting superstar calls.
That's my point. He can't get those calls if it takes 14 fucking shots, Scott. Another Ime Udoka punch in the face reason.
But I get it. And to me, there's some people that think Jokic is the best player in the league. And if you go on a pure statistical basis, I might be inclined to agree with them. But Durant's a bigger draw. He's a bigger name. And I just don't think you step over that line because umpires, referees, they're people too. You can say that they suck. I mean, certainly Angel Hernandez should have been told he sucked after every inning. But you can't, to me, when you question their integrity or you question whether or not they worked hard to get there, that's just beyond the pale to me.
No, I agree with you. I do think he took it a bit too far with the last part of it. I'll never forget there was a gentleman by the name of Brett Eibner who was a pretty high draft pick out of the Woodlands area for the Kansas City Royals. He was a two-way player. and then just never really made it as a hitter and felt that, he wanted to be a pitcher. So he came to the Air Hogs, and this is the kind of guy who would, and again, he was drafted pretty high, so he had a signing bonus of like $1 million straight out of high school. But this is the kind of guy who, when the team had an 18-hour bus ride back from St. Paul, he personally was asked to be dropped off at the airport by the team bus so that way he could fly back and wouldn't have to sit there, but wouldn't even pay for an Uber to get himself to the airport. Felt he deserved that kind of treatment, right? And he literally thought he was better than me. We're the exact same age. We're working for the exact same team, both trying to get to the major leagues. But, because he got paid $1 million early in his life and I was, fighting for my existence in minor league baseball, he was better, right? And so I definitely understand that, and definitely understand how you don't want to piss off those people. And, I don't think I talked as well about Eibner when he came to pitch as I did about some of those other guys, and certainly when a Brave scout came and knocked on my door and asked me, "Hey, what do you think about some of the guys in your bullpen?" I spoke very, very well of one guy in particular. That was Tyler Matzik, and about 2 hours later, he was heading back to the Mississippi Braves to try and find himself again. So I'm not saying I did anything special. I'm just saying I spoke up one guy. I didn't speak about another, and that one guy got signed, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who you got, Tim?
This one's kind of tough, Scott. I really went in a lot of different directions on this one, but there was an incident I didn't mention to you, and this is actually a couple weeks old, but I want to punch this Uber driver in the face. When I was in Scottsdale a couple weeks ago, I had to Uber everywhere, right? And for the most part, it went pretty well. But Haley and I are going to Jimmy John's, and my Uber driver ripped ass. And at which point he goes, "I'm sorry for the smell. Normally I'd like to roll the windows down, but they're not working. So again, I'm sorry." And just left it at that. Like we had to fucking bask in this guy's shit for like 10 minutes, man. Like I like barrel rolled out of the car when I finally got there because it was just like, like, oh my God. Like I get it. It happens, but like you had a sunroof. Like there were other options other than like leave. And also like it was cold, so we had the heat on. So we're like baking the shit further into our nostrils. I really haven't talked about it a lot, but I had 2 Uber rides yesterday that it kind of brought, a little PTSD back. And I was like, I think I'm ready to talk about this moment. So that one particular Uber driver, I really would like to punch in the face.
Oh man, yeah, that's rough.
There had to be a better way than what he did.
That's rough.
It was terrible.
That is rough. All right. So now we get the horse's ass.
That is correct.
I am going in a new direction, Tim, and I am nominating myself.
Well deserved. I don't know why. I'm just
well, 2 reasons, Tim. First of all, I hate it when people sit there and go like, Nick Caley's the worst ever. Nick Caley's the worst ever. Nick Caley's the worst ever. Man, I love Nick Caley. I always said I loved Nick Caley. I have to acknowledge that I think on 5 different occasions I've called for him to be fired. I don't think he's anywhere near the best offensive coordinator in the league. I'm probably still going to, cuss drag him in some games coming up, I am sure. But I think what D'Amico Ryans wants is becoming pretty clear when you hear him talk and when you see the product on the field. And this is what D'Amico Ryans wants. He wants a team that's not going to turn it over. He wants a team that, I don't know if you realize this, how many sacks Stroud had in 2024? How many times he was sacked?
It was like 80 something, wasn't it?
54.
Okay.
They've only allowed 31 sacks this year. I'd say, 3 games left. I guess it's possible they could surrender 23 sacks in 3 games. I wouldn't want to see what those 3 games will look like if that ends up being the case. But they've turned the ball over less this year. They've obviously surrendered fewer sacks. They've scored more points per game this year. And they are generally more efficient passing the football this year than they were last year. The only thing they're down in is they're down in basically yards per attempt on rushing. That's it.
But you haven't had Mixon at all this year.
You haven't had the one-footed guy. You haven't had the Tom Dipsey of running backs, Joe Mixon, in there, running the ball. So I don't think Nick Caley is a revelation. I don't think he is going to be a boy wonder who's going to get a ton of head coaching offers. But I think he understood the assignment, and there was a lot of growth that needed to happen. But I think we're at the point where I'm willing to give him a second year. And I'm calling myself the horse's ass because I have to admit when I'm changing steam. When I'm jumping the horse, I have to say it. Now, the second one, I did a Sabre presentation on Monday night. I did get to pub our show, so that was a positive. But the presentation, I did not give my best effort on that one. And I think part of it is that you had a room of people who don't know stats. And so I'm sitting there trying to explain stats to them. And it's just like, I do that much better as a writer than I do as a speaker. And that's just kind of, unfortunate. So, and the people there might feel differently about how my presentation, I don't know. I did get to tell my story about working in the Astrodome as a kid. I don't know if I've told you this story. So the very first game I'm working, the guy who's playing Orbit asked me to do the Pee Wee Herman around the first base coach. And so me and my partner are doing the Pee Wee Herman in my very first game around the first base coach. It was a Braves coach. And he just told both of us, if you touch me, I'm kicking your ass. That was the only thing he told us. And so, we went ahead and went on, and that was it. But yeah, other than that, it was not really a great presentation by me. So horse's ass here on that count as well.
Well, I can't speak to the second part of that, Scott, but I was sitting there the other thinking there was a time not long ago where you were talking about the phases of suck.
Yep.
And Nick Caley was at the top of that. So I do think there's been a lot of growth on his part. So I do think as a show, we owe the same way we had a moment of acknowledgement of Reed Shepherd's accomplishments. We probably do owe that to Caley for his growth as a play caller, because let's also be honest, he did not call good games to start the season, right? Like there was reason for the frustration. But he also gave us glimpses, right? Like on the first 3 losses, like the final drives of all those games, you're like, I'm starting to see what I've been wanting to see. And then you come back into the next week, you're like, well, fuck, okay, we're back to the same shit we were doing. I thought we found something and we didn't. Okay. But no, he does seem to have grown. I do think you're right. He is going to be a conservative play caller because that is what this team calls for. And realistically, rightfully so, right? Like if you have a team that produces turnovers the way the Texans do, that shuts down quarterbacks the way the Texans do, you don't really need to take a ton of risks on offense because the defense will give you those short field opportunities on their own. So I do think we owe him as a show at least an acknowledgement of, hey, we'll back the fuck off.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who you got, Tim?
I am going to go after the NFL in general again. I love football, but I feel like I've had a problem with the NFL every single week, and that should say something. Like the game itself is wonderful, but the people in charge suck. Hey Scott, what time do the Texans play the Colts on week 18?
Probably noon.
What day?
Probably Saturday.
Well, it's probably because we don't fucking know. Because if you look on there, it's still a TBD. And if you're someone who has tickets to that game and maybe you'd like to plan ahead and maybe you'd like to book a hotel because it's probably going to be a primetime game if it's for the division, but you don't know because the NFL won't make up their fucking mind yet. It's really hard to do that, Scott. It's really hard to book a hotel if you don't know what night you need the hotel. Only need one night, don't need two. So please, NFL schedule makers, and we looked it up online. They won't make their decision until after week 17. So now I have to book last minute. Can't take advantage of, being smart, planning ahead, any codes, anything like that. Nope. Wait till right before, get what's left because it's the holidays in Houston in the medical center. Good fucking luck. Like what are we doing here, guys? Like this is insane. It's absolutely insane, Scott, that we can't at this point determine what time games should be played on the final game of the year. Like we know what games matter at this point. Everybody is eliminated except the Colts barely hanging on, and then the Texans and Jags are down to the wire for the division title. Like it's pretty much locked in. So the fact that we still can't set a game time is or even a game day, so I know when to fucking book the hotel for. Even if you could just tell me it'll be Saturday or Sunday, that would help. That would be something. But instead, nothing.
Are you going to have to pull the old stay at the old Casa de Barzilla on that?
I mean, I can stay with my parents if I have to, but
Yeah.
like if it's a night game and then getting out of there and all that stuff, and it's Saturday night, it'd be nice to just have Haley and I stay at a hotel and then go back to get my kids from the parents the next day instead of like getting home at 11 something at night, having to call my parents' phone from the fucking gate code because that's what like it literally dials their cell phone. They have to let me in. It's just like a whole thing. So if we're Saturday night prime time, I'd rather just book a room and then I don't have to deal with parking. I don't have to deal with anything else. I just take the metro train and get in there.
All right, Tim. So now we get to throw some positive vibes. Okay, so my hat tip, and this is a huge one, Tim. My coworker Kamara, she is from West Africa, and let me tell you, she can cook. I'm not going to say she's a better cook than you because I haven't had any of your food, but we all paid her $25 for supplies. She cooked us jerk chicken, baked chicken, ribs, ham, potatoes, roasted vegetables, dirty rice, regular rice, a tiramisu, and banana pudding, and a salad. She woke up at 2 o'clock this morning, she told us, so that she could cook everything. So she was cooking for 6 of us. We ended up giving away food because she didn't want to take any food home. We were giving away food to any faculty member we could find. And that was an absolutely spectacular lunch. It was just fantastic. And I know she has a catering business that she runs during the summers, and she actually said she's known in the catering world as the rice woman because she can cook some mean rice, and her dirty rice, it was damn good stuff. The jerk chicken had just enough spice to it. It cleaned out my sinuses. That was an added bonus, as the kids would say, but fantastic. Great to and I could and what's funny is the English department, I have worked with them for 12 years. They've invited me to one luncheon in 12 years. So I got to take a picture of the spread and they sent it to them and said, "Suck it, bitches." I didn't say "suck it, bitches," but I sent them a picture of the spread saying, like, "Here's what I'm eating today." I didn't say "you're not invited," but I think it was implied.
It was an understood suck it.
I was going to do one of those. I told her what we should do is one of those. Hey, we're having our lunch in this room and have it be empty, and then have a sign in the room saying, "No, we've moved it over to this room," and have that room be empty. And then said, no, we move it over this room. That would have been pretty funny.
A scavenger hunt. I had the pleasure of attending. It was Arkansas Tech. I had a just a random regular season game at the Maverick Stadium on Saturday, and my wife and I went with her sister and her significant other. Um, and I gotta tell you, Scott, getting up and going watch a basketball game at 11 a.m. and then like having the day like afterwards is really nice. Like it is really, really nice to just not be up late after a game and just enjoy the city and be downtown and um it not be late at night. Like that was a really, really nice change of pace because almost every sporting event I go to is at night. But to attend something like that at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and then to top it off, this is the real cherry on top. We purchased, 300s, the highest section up, just like the Rockets Arena. There's not really a bad seat in that place, right? Like there's so few seats that even the second decks, there's some great views. So we get there, and there's a table that says anyone with 300 tickets stop here. Well, because it's a national TV game, they don't want it to look empty. And apparently, they sold like a bunch of the cheap seats up top, and no one bought the expensive ones down below. So they just gave everybody the really good seats down below. They just gave us all tickets in the hundreds. So that way, when ESPN was like getting crowd shots, it wasn't all empty, and they closed the upstairs area down. And so we ended up getting really like, right on the baseline seats for the price of the nosebleeds. And we were done with the day by 2 o'clock. I mean, it was really a win-win. The only thing that could have made it better, Scott, is if the concession stands had like a bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel somewhere. I looked everywhere for a breakfast sandwich, but I couldn't find it.
Oh man. Ah, yeah. But yeah, those games. I love those earlier games. Yeah, because you get the rest of the day. That's why I actually like noon NFL football for the same reason. You get
Same. I love a noon game.
you get the rest of the day. I don't like usually my Sundays like I'm serving in as usually a Eucharistic minister or lector almost every Sunday, and that's at the 5:30 mass. So you give me a 3 o'clock start, I'm not seeing the end of the game. I'm just not. And that's what's going to end up happening this next week. I'm just going to hope and pray that, the issue is not in doubt, by the time I have to leave for mass.
Trying to fill my shoes as a lector, huh?
Uh,
Coming for my title. I don't know, Scott.
I've
I'll
been
have
doing
to
it
reach
for
out
over.
to your congregation, see how it sounded.
I've been doing it for over a year, and luckily we have enough lectors where I don't have to do that very often. I'm usually I'm the go-to is I'm a cup minister. That's usually their go-to.
That's crucial. The cup people, that's they think that's something you can put a rookie on, right? But next thing you know, you're out of blood, and 2/3 of the line still has to come through the line, and now you've screwed the whole rotation up, right? You need a good veteran on the blood of Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think it's that favorite segment of the week.
I think you will be right in that assumption, Scott. Who is your scumbag this
I
week?
hate I hate nominating this guy because he feeds off this, but I'm going to have to go with your and my president, Donald Trump, because I don't know how much of the Rob Reiner, Michelle Reiner news story that any
I've been
details
following it.
you have not or have. I'm sorry.
I have been.
So killed by their son, who anytime a child kills a parent, you don't even have to know details. You know that child is messed up. I mean, it's just a given. So our president could have said nothing. I would have preferred that. I think that
Should have said nothing.
most of the United States would prefer that, but he had to comment. And of course, his reasoning is because he has Trump derangement syndrome. And of course, he said, "Oh, he used to be good, but now he's bad because he just whatever, right?" And I know you're not old enough to, but I have memories of watching All in the Family, at least some reruns where he was playing Meathead, but he made his bones as a director. Um, I'm sure you, like most of us, enjoyed The Princess Bride. I mean, a
I
solid
mean,
film.
I'd say of his big run of movies, Spinal Tap is probably my favorite. Then
That's
Princess
a good.
Bride.
That's a good. Yeah, those are good ones. When Harry Met
Um,
Sally's a good one.
yeah,
And then I think he actually, in the story that I heard this week that I had not heard previously, is Mississippi Burning. He directed, and James Wood was nominated for an Oscar. And James Wood is normally one of the bigger scumbags of our time, but
because of what he's done in Family Guy.
yeah, because he's a red hat. But he and Rob Reiner remained friends, even though Reiner is a very vocal opponent of the president. And so, even he came out. And so when even MAGA's coming out and saying your remarks were tasteless, it's hard to sit there and imagine somebody reaching a new low as him. I think, every day is a new low. And I wrote my column tonight. It landed tonight. I don't know if are you familiar with the story Jonathan Livingston Seagull?
I don't think so.
So it's a book. It's a cool story. It was written back in 1970. Basically, the guy like practically self-published it, and it ended up being a New York Times bestseller just based on word of mouth. And so the whole story is basically surrounding this seagull that basically learns, what true freedom is, learns, to unlock his full potential. But he had a mentor seagull who mysteriously disappeared because there's a lot of Christian mythology kind of wrapped up in this story. And the last thing he told him was work on love. And then he disappeared. And so, and I think the thing that really pains me about this president and about the times that we're living in is that we have a epidemic of narcissism in our society. I think we have people who are glorifying the I, and they're forgetting about the we. And I think what was truly brilliant about the Jonathan Livingston Seagull, another favorite book of mine is The Missing Piece by Shel Silverstein. I don't know if you've read that one as a kid.
Which one?
The Missing Piece.
I don't think so.
There's a line in there. Basically, it's this basically a round object that's looking for a missing piece. And when he finds it, the missing piece ends up he says, well, maybe you don't want to be my missing piece, or maybe you're your own missing piece. And he tells them, I can be someone's and still be my own. And I think that one message encapsulates where we need to be as a human species, that we can maintain our individuality, we can maintain ourselves, we can be who we are, but we have to care for those that are around us. And I think the biggest thing that Donald Trump has done is he's unlocked that selfish narcissism. And I'm not going to say half the population. I don't think it's half. I think it's probably more like a third. But, a third of the people in this country think it's now okay to be an asshole, or it's just not okay to be an asshole. And the sad thing is, and I wrote this earlier this week, when he dies, I don't know if anybody's going to truly dance in the streets. I don't think I will. But I'm not going to feel anything other than relief. And the sad thing is that he's lived such a hateful life that even his friends and family, they're going to miss the power that came with him. They're going to miss the prestige that came with him. They'll miss his money, but they're not going to miss him. And, I know you're familiar with, the Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge. I don't think this guy would listen to three ghosts. And the thing is, when you read the backstory in Ebenezer Scrooge, you can get why he's a hateful son of a bitch. Things happened in his life that sucked, and some of it was his own doing. But there's the reasons why he was the way he was. This guy is just malevolence. I don't know if there's any reason why I mean, he's lived his whole life with a silver spoon in his mouth and is somehow still a victim. I don't, and so I hate nominating him, but that was a new low.
I tend to agree with you on that, Scott. And then at the same time, you see all those people posting like, "Oh, you see how respectful we've been after Rob Reiner died, and the left was hateful after Charlie Kirk died." It's like the president of the United States literally took the moment to talk shit. There's been plenty of people who have talked shit, and I generally agree with you on people just feeling encouraged to say that hateful thing that's on their mind now, or to just be an asshole. And it leads me to my scumbag of the week is a collection of 18 states, Texas included, changed the policy for SNAP. You can no longer get sodas, energy drinks, candy, and like prepared desserts, right? And there's a good portion of social media who is their thought process is good. Those people don't need that anyway, right? And my question, and I got into an argument, whatever. I couldn't help myself, you know me. But why the fuck do you care, right? And oh well, I'd rather our kids be healthy and waste our tax dollars. Like we waste tax dollars to Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and plenty of defense companies on missiles that will never be built and never be used. Oh, well, I want our country to be safe. We'd actually be safer if we stopped launching missiles into random places and creating terrorist groups that hate us because we blow them up with missiles. Well, we just don't want our kids to be fat. Like, no, you're just a hateful piece of shit, and you want to be able to lord the fact of poverty over people, right? Like, capitalism doesn't exist without poverty. You have to have people willing to take the lowest of low of jobs. And you have to have countries that will take the jobs even Americans lowest of low won't take. That's how capitalism works. And so you can't sit here and claim that capitalism is the best system possible, knowing it's going to create and sustain poverty, and then put fucking limits on those people that you are purposely keeping your foot on their backs. Who the fuck cares if a SNAP benefit goes to Dr. Pepper? I don't care. You know, there have been many days where I've sat down and a fucking cold root beer really just like took the edge off. It's great. I love root beer. It's one of my personal favorite things in life. And who am I to say that just because you have a SNAP benefit, and most people on SNAP do have full-time jobs, who am I to say that you don't deserve a cold soft drink with your meal at dinner time? Who am I to say that your kids don't deserve some great value brand cookies for dessert after you've had your meal? Like this new level of what we'll call quote unquote morality is really, really frustrating. And I should have mentioned a secondary hat tip to our Pope, Scott, because he is at least doing his part to fight back on this from the Catholic perspective, especially in America, as he's had a very problematic cardinal removed from the New York diocese and Cardinal Dolan. I'm sorry, it was probably Archbishop Dolan. But either way, this new level of morality where we're just telling everybody else how to live their lives and we're being fucking assholes as we do it. I'm just so fucking sick of it. So all of these 18 states, Texas included, y'all all fucking suck, man. Like I dated someone who was on food stamps, and it's not like she didn't have a job. It's not like she didn't want to change her situation. She had a tough break. She had a kid who was disabled, had to be home with her a certain amount of time. And God forbid, like that person, her child liked honey buns, right? Like she liked Little Debbie's honey buns. God forbid the SNAP benefit pays for what the 3-year-old kid likes to snack on. Like, God forbid. Are there healthier things in the world? Yeah. But should a kid not get a treat every now and then? Go fuck yourself. Like, I'm just so over it, Scott. I'm so over of this. You should homeschool your kid. You should not vaccinate. You should do like this just holier than thou bullshit that our whole new morality needs to be based on to gain curry with King Trump.
Well, it's punitive, and a couple of things that points of hypocrisy here. There's actually 2 or 3 different forms of hypocrisy that we're looking at here. So number one, let's just throw out some conjecture. Where do most SNAP benefit recipients live?
The South.
Do you think
Some states?
Do you think they're more city or more rural?
Oh, more rural.
So depending on where you're going, right? They probably live in a food desert, what we would call a food desert.
Where Dollar General or Food Tree are your best grocery options at that point.
And so if you're Dollar Tree or Food Towning it, or if you're Walmarting it, I mean, I guess Walmart's actually turning themselves around in terms of what they're offering. But if you look at a grocery store, they tell you that the healthier aisles are the ones on the outsides, right?
Yeah.
That's where your produce is. That's where your fruits are. That's where your meats are. So your proteins and your dairy is usually on the other end. But see, here's the thing. Where is the cheaper stuff, Tim?
In the middle.
So now you're going to tell people that who are probably trying to, because I priced it. I looked at, because I allow myself 1 caffeine drink a day because of my diabetes. I don't, try to do more than that. So I'll usually have one in the morning, and then I'll have water the rest of the day. Bottled water costs more than, say, H-E-B soda. Why is that? Isn't water healthier?
It is.
So if we're going to sit there and we're going to tell people that you're not allowed to have the unhealthy stuff, but the unhealthy stuff is cheaper. I mean, and then, you have the other part of the fact that most of these people are working, and they're also choosing not only what's cheaper, they're choosing what's easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to prepare vegetables. It's harder to prepare proteins.
Or even, let's look at sweets specifically, right? Because that
Yeah.
was the thing they looked at was, if you want cookies, bake them yourself. Okay, a box of like Walmart brand version of Chips Ahoy cookies, right? Whatever that would be. I don't know what they call them, but just regular chocolate chip cookie, $3.50 about. Now, let's say you now have to go bake all that stuff for yourself because you lost the ability to buy the prepackaged version. You need flour, you need sugar, you need brown sugar, you need butter, you need vanilla extract, you need salt, you need baking soda, you need chocolate chips. Like that's minimum $10 for those ingredients. Now, you've never done this before. Are you going to nail the first batch right away? Probably not. So you're going to need to buy a little bit of extra. Also, do you have a baking sheet? Do you have a cooling rack? Do you have access to a fucking oven? Do you have a mixing bowl? Do you have all these other things and the ability to do that? And, you're both working parents. Do you have the time to cook a meal and have time to make fresh chocolate chip cookies for dessert afterwards?
And so if you're really into making America healthier, you would make the healthier options more appealing by making them more affordable. But we're not going to do that. You would make it more appealing by offering just better grocery options available to everybody around the country, particularly in urban areas and extreme rural areas. But you're not going to do that. it's kind of like the gun debate where it's like, well, it's mental health, but we're going to cut mental health services. Yeah, that'll curb that mental health problem. The second issue that I have is the statement that she made, which is absolutely true. Most people with SNAP benefits work. They cannot afford food on their salary.
And
Why
most of
is
them
that?
work for a major corporation like Walmart
Why is that, Tim?
because those places are greedy as fuck and want to extract every single dollar they can, and they know the lowest amount of money these people will possibly accept for the job, and they pay it. They won't pay you a penny more than they literally have to pay you.
So we're going to turn around and we're going to give those corporations tax breaks?
We are, and we
And so
do.
and so are you incentivizing work at that point? So if your goal is to say, "Hey, I want people to work and I want people to be healthy." You are removing and where this all comes down to, Tim, and this is and as a teacher, I know this full well because I have people in my building who think this way. You know kids that you graduated with who screwed around, right?
Sure.
And the teachers are probably think, well, he's going to be a minimum wage bum and that's going to show him. And it's like, yeah, but at some point, we have to allow for the capacity for somebody to figure it out. And one of my, I'm not going to mention her by name, but I had a kid that I taught at Creek who was that kind of kid, hardly ever showed up, and she did show up. She hardly ever did her work. But I caught up with her on Facebook and she's now a registered nurse because when she got into her early 20s, she had a kid and she figured out, oh shit, I've got to do something with my life. So she worked her ass off and she became a registered nurse. So we are not offering people. And I think the Republican idea is that, well, the only people working minimum wage jobs are teenagers. Nope.
Or bums, right?
No.
No one they think that if you have to work a minimum wage job, you shouldn't be trying to pay for a family on that minimum wage job. That shouldn't be what you're trying to do.
So to me, if you want to incentivize work, if you want people to stand on their own 2 feet, you need to incentivize working hard, which means that you need to pay people a livable wage. That's just, and I've heard a lot of different, um, I think, AOC has talked about a universal basic income. I don't know if you've heard that talk. I don't know if that's the answer. I think definitely an answer is to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour. I think that should be a baseline because here's the talking point. All the fast food places are like, "Oh my God, that's going to double the price of our burgers, and people are not going to want to pay it." That's the equivalent of what they pay in Western Europe. Do you know how much their burgers are?
Oh, they're cheaper than they are here.
They're actually more. They're like 20 cents more. But I would rather pay an extra 20 cents and know that the person who's making my burger can afford to live a livable life.
That or don't tell me that we can't have subsidies for them for their rent and for their apartment for their food and gas. Like if you want to leave them at this level of wage, then we have to support them in another way. If we raise the wage, great. If we don't raise the wage, then raise the benefit of life, right? Like I don't think anyone should live below a poverty line in the wealthiest country in the world. I don't think someone like Elon Musk should get $1 trillion contract when people live under fucking bridges. Like I work in downtown Dallas. I see some shit every single day. It's heartbreaking. I don't love being around that. I don't want to interact with that on a daily basis, but it doesn't mean I think those people don't have a right to exist and don't have a right to a better opportunity for life, right? Like there are people who fuck around in high school, Scott, and a lot of them figure it out. As you said, they find their path. I wasn't perfect. It took me I bounced around jobs. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't finish school at the place I started. It took me transferring to the University of Houston, getting into broadcasting. Even after that, I didn't go straight to a minor league team. I had to find my way to be able to get there. People take paths. And if we don't have support systems that help them, um, we end up with more radicalization. Because what's the other option, Scott? If you're one of those people who a teacher writes off as a minimum wage person and you don't turn shit around, what's the other option? You keep working that minimum wage job, then you think everybody else is out to fucking get you. Then someone like Trump comes along and you believe that fucking bullshit. And now you're a dumbass MAGA person who's very easy to indoctrinate because you're already in a really, really bad position in the first place.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, the words that, I told when I was going through my scumbag. We need to work on love. And to me, you're not loving your fellow man when you're letting them struggle. And we can have a reasonable debate about what basic level of living people should have. That there's a reasonable conversation to be had there. I would say that everybody should have a roof over their head. I think they should have 3 square meals a day. I think clothes on their back. I think that's basic.
Access to the internet
I,
in today's day and age.
I think that's basic. But and my problem is that, and the other problem is when you look at, say, a minimum wage, what happens when you offer people more money, Tim, to work?
They have more choices. They buy more things. They
have more pride in their work.
That too.
They're going to do a better job. And so, because I know you've stopped at a Buc-ee's. Do you know what they pay their employees there?
Starts at like 17 and then goes all the way up to like 30 for management.
Those bathrooms are spotless. You could eat off the bathroom floor practically.
I wouldn't recommend that, but
I wouldn't recommend that. But you've been in a regular gas station bathroom and thought, man, I don't want to touch anything in here. I need a hazmat suit to pee in here. But the Buc-ee's people, they're always friendly. They're always working hard. And I think a part of that is because they're well paid.
No, it definitely, every metric in the world would show you you have a more engaged workforce. They feel more heard. The lower the gap between like CEO pay and employee pay, the better the outcome and the quality of the product is going to be, right? Like you go work for Amazon right now, whether it's in fulfillment, whether it's on, the AWS side of things, which is their data warehousing, or, you work on your back end and website development or ads, whatever it is, you're one of thousands. And you know that your CEO is making $100 million this year. You're making 65 grand. You don't give a fuck. You just fuck, like, hey, fuck Amazon. I'm gonna do the least I can do to not get fired.
Yeah.
And I've been in that position. I worked for a very, very large organization that made some really stupid decisions and would come on these fucking town halls just oblivious to like how the world around them felt. And the CEO is sitting in a penthouse talking about tough times and all this shit. And I'm just like, fuck you, But at a company now where the CEO is literally in the muck with us on a day-to-day basis. There's 15 of us. We're all fighting to grow something. I'm not gonna say I do better work, but I do think I am a much more motivated worker at this point.
Yeah, and just want to pass along some bad news. The Rockets did lose tonight.
Are you fucking kidding me?
In overtime, 133 to 128.
They had no business losing that game. They need a point guard, Scott.
And that's the first 2-game losing streak of the season.
You had Jamal Shed. You don't lose that game. But we'll leave it at that. I want Jamal Shed as a Rocket. It's probably not going to happen, but what can I say? All right, Scotty boy, we will take the holiday off, and it will be a 2026 reunion for us before we're back on this show.
Absolutely. All right.
Have a wonderful holiday season, not just to you, Scott, but to all of our listeners. We will see you in the new year.